All righty, everybody. Thanks for joining me tonight. We are got a very special episode where we're going to talk with our co-host today, Dale, the casual gamer. What's going on, Dale? How you been, buddy?
Oh, pretty good. And you?
Hanging in there, hanging in there. It's Friday night. Whew, our week is done, so now we just get
Get down to the fun and talk games.
right. We can get a whole weekend to play now. We don't have to worry about having to get up and go to work. So that's a good thing. I'll probably be on until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So
Playing your video game?
I'm sorry?
I've seen you playing a lot of video games recently.
Yeah, I've been back on the video game kick. I've been on just busy. Where actually I got this background, as I was telling you, because literally and behind me, you can kind of see there's clothes everywhere.
Yeah.
Because we're having our closets redone. And so all the clothes have to get moved down so we can take everything off the walls and paint it and undo all that stuff. So anyways, wow. Anyways, we're going to be talking about deck building games. And we're not talking about the games that come with pre-constructed decks or decks that you build yourself a certain amount. We're talking about the deck building mechanic that started with Dominion and is expanded to many, many different games.
Yeah. A lot of people, deck construction to me is definitely different than deck building. So yeah, deck construction, you're spending a half an hour to an hour before a game to build that perfect deck to kind of accomplish a mission, and that deck's going to stay the same for the whole game. And then with deck building, you and I will start with a very standard 10 cards that aren't the best and then hopefully purchase some nice new cards to really get an engine built. So yep.
Right, exactly. So we're going to be talking, maybe we'll have another episode either on Dale's channel or my channel where we compare the two and contrast them and really delve into that. But this is going to be more of the deck building mechanic. And after, we communicated back and forth, you posted on my channel, I posted on your channel, we emailed each other. We found out we have very similar tastes in games. We like a lot of the same things. And one of the things that really stuck out with us is about both of our passion for deck building. So what do you think, is deck building one of your favorite mechanics in board gaming in general?
It definitely is. I got started probably playing, like most people, playing Magic the Gathering, and then kind of, for me, I moved over to Versus System, which was a superhero version of Magic, basically. And I liked that, but I'm not huge on deck construction. I just don't like taking all the time doing the metagaming to try to figure out stuff. And then Dominion popped in, and I was like, what's this? Even though the art didn't intrigue me, it was, I watched another group of people, I remember at the game store going in there going, what are y'all doing? Because, first time you look down at the table of a deck building game, you're like, all right, there's 15 stacks of cards. You just picked one, put it over there, shuffled your deck, played 15 things, and reshuffled everything. I was like, well, what are y'all doing? And so just hearing it intrigued me. And it was nice that it was you buy a box and you can quit. So there was no, like I said, I came from Magic the Gathering where you're spending money like crazy to get different cards to put in your deck. And here comes a game that comes with all the cards you need. And the game itself is building that deck. So to me, that was the fun part. And then just getting those different mechanics together was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Private Public, how you doing? Good day, folks. He was just playing Marvel Champions, one of your all-time favorite games.
Yep, I was just playing it too.
Surprise, surprise. Hey, Kyle, how you doing? Yep. Good to see you tonight. Yeah, we're gonna have people slowly probably rolling in. So deck building. So as Dale said, you normally start off with a deck of 10 to 12 cards, depending on what the game system is. These are usually very weak cards. They're not very exciting. They don't do anything usually very special or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And the game and the mechanic is basically you're buying other cards or gaining other cards. Maybe not, you don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to, depending on what the game is, you don't have to buy them, but sometimes you gain them other ways. You're gaining other cards to put in your deck and then make your deck better or create some kind of special synergy between your cards and stuff. So there is a lot that goes into deck building because you have the deck management part where you don't want to just create a deck of 1,000 cards because
Mm-hmm.
then you're only going to be drawing a card that you want, one of your powerful cards, some of the time. So you want to draw these powerful cards all the time. You also have the power creep mechanic built into Dominion or deck building, where you start off very, very weak, I guess you should say. And then as you game progresses, you get better and better stuff, which makes you more powerful. So, like I said, there's a lot of built-in kind of synergy with deck building to some of these other mechanics. What do you find the most interesting part of the deck building mechanic? Is the power creep? Is it the deck management? Is it the synergies between the cards? What is your favorite part?
Well, yeah, it's trying to find those synergies. Like you say, you start with a deck to where you're going to play. Let's say you draw 5 cards, and your first turn is going to be, I'm playing these 5 cards and buying 1 card or gaining another card or something. But it's as you build and go through your deck, then it's all of a sudden, ooh, I just had a turn where I played 15 cards. So it's building those synergies, or depending on the game, what you're doing. Like Dominion, you're trying to get victory points. So you're trying to get a cash engine going and then buy a bunch of victory points to end the game. Whereas a game like Star Realms or something like that, you're trying to get a cash engine to get attack weapons and then beat your opponent down. So yeah, just using what comes up in various forms. Because Dominion, you start off strategically, you get to see all 10 cards, or however many it is. You get to see before you start playing a game, ooh, I want that one and those 2 to build an engine and lead into something else. Whereas some games, you have a random lineup come up, which adds another randomness to the game of, okay, I know what card I would like to see, but I might not see it. So doing the best with what comes up.
Right.
So I like figuring out that puzzle and trying to make something work out of something that may or may not work to start with.
Right. There is, you brought up a great point. One of the things I didn't mention is the part of the game deck building mechanic where you have to take some things that may not even be related to one another and try to find a way to get everything to work together inside your little deck. Kyle says that deck building are a new thing to him. Only ones that played so far: X-Files, Bond, and Aliens of the Legendary series, and one's based on my favorite video game of all time, Dark Souls, the card game. Have you tried Dark Souls?
Yeah, that was a tough one. That was a lot of fun, though. Yeah. And I need to play all the other ones he was mentioning about. I think I played the Aliens, but not the X-Files or Bond.
I played the X-Files not too long ago on my channel. It has some pretty interesting mechanics. Unlike so for those unfamiliar, the X-Files, James Bond, and Aliens are all part of the Legendary deck building system, which is part of the Marvel Legendary game system.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel Heroes is kind of just a base game system for that, where the X-Files or James Bond or the Aliens kind of take that and morph it into other with new mechanics and stuff like that. So each one's got different things that add to the game, and I'm really intrigued with X-Files, and it does some pretty cool things. Yeah.
Yep, almost picked it up 2 weeks ago, but someone else was a little quicker in the shop to pick it up.
You got to get it if you can see it, because it's not very common anymore. So
yeah, some of those are harder to find.
Yeah, some of them are a little harder to find. For sure.
But I guess leading off of what you were talking about with Dominion, that kind of sets a standard. It started a whole new genre of games now, and there's a whole bunch of different ways to play. Like I said, that's with the legendary stuff. Well, I guess Dominion, there's several cards out there that you see the tableau of cards you can purchase from, and you go from that. And to me, those are a bit more strategic. You can kind of sit down and plan your turn. The only randomness is, I really wanted to draw 4 money, but only draw 3. So that just takes another turn to get your engine going to what you wanted to do. Then you have games like the legendary stuff where it's a lot more random. 5 cards come up and you just have to do the best you can with what comes out, kind of thing.
Right. So we were talking the Ascension type games, DC deck building, where you gotta, instead of different stacks of piles that you purchase from, you got a random deck that's shuffled together, and then several of those cards are placed out for both players to purchase from.
Yeah, so Dominion, you've got like 10 stacks of 10.
Yeah.
Whereas the other games, you've got 100 cards, of which 2 might be the same.
Right. And the other thing that I really enjoy about games like Dominion and deck building is the fact that you normally start with a certain number of stacks that you're going to be coming from. So we'll just take Dominion because most people are familiar with the base Dominion game. The base Dominion game came with 30 different kingdom cards, is what they're called, 30 different kingdom cards. And you're only going to play 10 of those 30 cards. So you're going to have quite a variety as you take cards in and out of your kingdom, and how everything is going to interact and work together, because some cards will, this card is an attack card. And if you don't have a defense card, those attack cards become really powerful. Whereas if you have no attack cards, but you have a lot of defensive cards out there, the defensive cards aren't as great anymore because there's nothing to defend against. So there's a lot of randomness, and you never get the same combination. Very rarely will you get the same combination. I think there's a mathematical formula that I've actually come across. I won't be talk about that by no. Hang on a second. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, it's funny playing Dominion. Like I said, if you get 2 people that are used to playing with each other, and they with the same 10 cards, they're going to have a similar thing going on. You bring in a third person that buys a different card, and that's going to throw the others off. Because like you said, with the attack, maybe the 2 people aren't used to picking up that card, but the third person that's new to the group is going, well, I'm going to go on it. I'm going to buy the attack cards and start messing with other people. So It changes the whole table dynamic. So that's another neat thing on competitive deck builders.
Correct. Yeah. I was just looking to see. I don't see the exact number, but I believe there are somewhere in the neighborhood of 564 different kingdom cards in the Dominion set. So if I was to share my screen over here, let's do that. So there is an actual combinations without repetitiveness. There's this site I found. So if you were to take, say, 564, somewhere in that neighborhood, and you're going to be choosing 10 kingdom cards that are not, you can't choose it. Obviously when you choose it, you can't choose it again. And we can calculate the actual odds of this, or different combinations that you can create. The number is so astronomical that it's 8.282866211343 times 10 to the 20th power. Let me let that sink in for a minute. That is 10, all that to the times 10 to the 20th power, which literally means you're going to add like 200 zeros on to the end of this. That is the chance, or that's a different combination. That's the different combinations that you can create with this, which means It's got a lot of replayability.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing about deck building games. Yeah, you're playing the same small little game, but every game's going to be different. I know in our top 10 list, I brought up Star Realms. So, I mean, this is a very small box here. It's got enough, yeah. It's got enough, let me see, for 4 players. And every time you play this, different cards are going to be in your lineup, so you can't play the same game twice, or it's going to be hard to.
Really hard to, right?
Yeah, so like I said, when you go into other games, yeah, so the randomness or the replayability is going to be huge with deck building games.
Yeah, I really think, and you know, you could play with say 9 of the same 10 cards that you played. You know, let's say you play a game, you like the kingdom, but you decide, oh, we'll trade out a few cards. So you can play 9 of the same. And if you change out 1 card, it changes the dynamic completely.
Mm-hmm.
Because that 1 card may synergize with other cards better, so your strategy has to immediately change. And that's kind of the whole thing about deck building is everyone can come up with strategies. It's the one that comes up with the best strategy usually ends up winning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, Private Public, the DC deck building game, got him into it. I think I've heard of that one.
Yeah.
I got the big box here. And I heard they've got a Kickstarter coming out soon. I don't know what that's going to entail, but
Really?
Yeah, their 10-year anniversary of the DC deck building game.
Wow. That's cool.
So, I'm curious to see what that's going to come up with. And I see Kyle was talking about the Harry Potter Hogwarts battle game.
Yeah. Oh, look at you, all ready to go. Wow. That's why I keep you around.
These people to come in and say some key names. This is one of the games when I first played it. Well, when someone first showed it to me, I was like, Harry Potter, the movies, you know, they were okay. But to me, this is probably one of the best cooperative deck building games I've played.
What do you like about that one? I was going to pick that up, and then I'm trying to remember what they said to me about it. And I said, oh, I probably won't like it then. There's some kind of mechanic in it where, don't you?
It's got a lineup of cards, and if early on in the game, if those cards have high costs, it's going to be tough to recover because there's not a mechanic in it to get rid of the lineup. So in their second edition, basically the company realized that and made a home rule that once per game you can say, yeah, everything in the lineup goes and you can bring it back out.
Okay. All right. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was you that told me about that. But
that didn't affect I like it best at 4 players. Because basically what I like about the game is, as far as cooperative, it's like, well, Marvel Legendary, yes, you're cooperating, but in this game, you're actually helping that other person. It's kind of like, all right, I'm playing a card. I can do this one attack, or I can set you up to have a better attack, or it's kind of like, and you're taking damage at the same time. So some cards you can heal other people, and you have to cooperate together very good to survive. Now it is based on the movie, so it starts out, I think they even mentioned it in the rules. It's like if you're used to deck building games, start in book 3 because book 1 is going to be this is too easy, but you want to go through it because it's based on the movie. But as you go on, I just like the mechanics of those games, and of course later on they add dice in there too. So
right. Here's Caesar's Peak. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for coming out tonight. Good to see everybody out to spending some time with us tonight. So we do appreciate everyone coming out. We just did our top 10 solo board games on your channel about a month ago. And we decided we were going to do our top 10 board games of all time, but we decided to postpone that until later in the year. So we'll be getting together, every month or so until then, doing different things, different topics and different subjects before we reveal the big top 10 of all time.
That's right. Now, was Aeon's in your biggest on your solo list? Was that your highest deck builder, or do you remember?
My number one solo was Arkham Horror. My number two
Great.
solo was Aeon Zen.
Yep.
Yes. Yep. Aeon Zen deck building with a different mechanic, which we haven't mentioned so far, in the
Hmm.
fact that there is no shuffling. You actually get to set your cards as you discard them. You get to set them down however you want, so you don't have to shuffle them, which was really innovative and like really attracted me to this game. And when I tried it out, it was mind blowing. Like no one ever else thought of that until then. Wow, what a change! What a
Yep.
change!
And to me, my favorite part of that game is not that mechanic. To me, it's the random turn order.
Yep, another great
Yep.
innovative addition to the game. And
Yeah. So the typical deck builder is uh, you purchase cards, they go to your discard pile. When you need to draw new ones, you shuffle your discard pile to make a new deck. So just something as simple as the play order in Aeon's End is you do your spells, they go to the discard pile. You play your cards to purchase stuff, they go to the discard pile. And then you place your other stuff in the discard pile in the order you want. And then
right,
you just flip that deck over to go over
right,
so there's no shuffling. So
right,
I mean, that's a neat
which took
mechanic.
away, I believe, part of the complaint that some people had with deck building games.
Hmm.
Because as we talked about, part of what makes a good deck building game and a deck building your deck good is the combination of having cards that work well together and do things. Oh, if you have this card, then this card gets a +2. But if those two cards don't come out together, they don't do any good.
Hmm.
So with that non-shuffling mechanic, so that was kind of people's biggest complaints about deck building games in the beginning, was that, oh, okay, well, I could buy all the cards I need and they will never work together because they never come out together.
Hmm.
Aeon Zen kind of took that and said, okay, well, then we'll let you decide how to put your cards together so that way you won't have that problem. So,
Yep.
and I think that was really cool the way, and I was hoping other games would take that and run with it as well and kind of morph that into other game systems. I haven't come across anything like that since then. Have you?
Uh, no, I mean, the same company's got another game that just went off Kickstarter, off the same system. I will say this, that's the only deck building game I have that's not sleeved.
Well, I don't know. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, that's because there's no shuffling. You don't need to sleeve them, right? Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
not concerned about the shape of the
right,
cards as much, yeah, because there's
right.
no shuffling or
There's no
anything like that. Yeah,
The
so
only
another,
ones I have them sleeved are the deck order, the draw
oh, yeah,
order,
yeah,
because those
those
ones
six
you can
cards are
shuffle.
the only ones I have
Yeah.
sleeved. That's
So yes,
important.
save on some sleeves there, can't you? Wow, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
and so along with that, another neat thing about some other deck building games, most games when you purchase a card, it goes straight to your discard pile. So some other games let you, when you purchase a card, it goes on top of your deck,
Right,
which is a neat mechanic. Is you just bought this big expensive card, and now you have to wait to go through your deck and hope you get it. Whereas with this new mechanic, you're getting it next turn.
hmm
So that's neat. I think the GI Joe deck builder does that, and maybe
right,
Moonrakers does it. So it's
yeah,
neat to purchase something and knowing next turn you get to utilize it.
right, right. Yeah, there's several cards or heroes, I think, in Marvel, and even in Marvel Legendary, that have a power that, if you purchase a
Hmm.
card, it goes directly either into your hand or on the top of your deck or something. If you get those combos going, right? If
Yeah.
you're going to play a green fist and have another green fist, and if you get that, then when you buy a card, it can go into your hand or on the top of your deck, depending on which hero it is. So
Hmm.
it's all about getting these combos and working well together. The other thing I find is you and myself are very similar on this. We like those short and sweet games, nothing that drags out forever and ever. Like Dominion, you can literally get a game in Dominion done in about 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. You know,
Yeah,
it's not a very long game. You can get it done, build your deck, and be done with it in very short time.
yeah. I mean, most of your straightforward deck building only style games, yeah, they go by pretty quick. Like I keep looking at the 3 games behind your head there. Star Realms, I mean, you can get a game of that done in 15 minutes. So Mage Knight on the other side of you, not so much, but that game combines a lot area control and other things that has deck building in it.
Correct.
In that game, deck building is tough. You start with a specialized deck, and to me, I mean, deck building, I'm used to buying, 30 cards. Mage Knight, you're not buying that many cards. I mean, you really have to, you might purchase one here and there, but at the end of the game, you might have got 5 new cards or something. So that's a neat mechanic.
Right. And speaking of this one as well, Clank,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of takes, so we have cooperative deck building, we have competitive deck building, where you're basically trying to finish the objective before everybody else. Now, Clank kind of said, you know what, if we're going to play competitively, let's have the game work against the players. So that was kind of a neat and interesting way to incorporate deck building as well.
Yeah, I mean, a little randomness with the deck building, but more of a push your luck in getting in the dungeon, and when's the dragon going to attack you? How's it going to attack you? And just the push your luck of, oh, I'm going to go for the biggest piece of treasure. But then you look at your buddy that went in and got the cheapest piece of treasure and is heading back out.
Right. And so, can I get down there and get it before he, gets out of the dungeon and makes the dragon, causes me to get, killed by the dragon, which would be bad. There are certainly a lot of games that have come out since, Dominion kind of introduced everyone to deck building. And I think a lot of people enjoy you play with a lot of your game group you've been playing with for quite some time now, several years.
Mm-hmm.
Has any of them talked about deck building to you and said, "Oh, I really like this mechanic because of this or that"? I'm just trying to get a general gist of, worldwide, why is deck building so popular?
Yeah, the ones that goes most with my game group has been Marvel Legendary, and I think any of the Legendary style games would have done. Marvel was just the top one because of the IP. Feel like Aliens was probably the one everyone liked the most because of everything, the secret of what's coming across the top aisle there. Harry Potter, we've played that one a ton. And like I said, we're all older people that were on the movie, but that game just resonated with us. So as far as, I think it was a cooperative play that really got that going. I'm trying to look around here.
You also have Tyrants of the Underdark. I noticed that was on your channel, and you seem to really like that as well.
Yep, and I'm not huge on area control, neither is my group to the most part. But the way that game combined both those elements together, I think it did a great job of that. But area control just, I feel like most area control games, it needs to be a 2 or 4 player game. If it's an odd,
if it's an odd number, game, 2 versus 1 or 3 versus 2, it can kind of tip the scale a little bit. Yeah.
But it wasn't, so that was neat, the way they combine them up. Few and a Curse, I know I pushed that on you. I thought that, to me, that was a big adventure game. It's similar to Clank in the fact that you're building your deck so you can move around and accomplish different goals. But that also introduced a new way for adding new cards to your deck, where it was every turn you get to look at 2 cards. You're not paying for them. It's just 2 cards. And this is one of the few games, a lot of times if there's a lineup, you're always 90% of the time, what card someone's buying. It's the best card there. But in this game, you're looking at those 2 cards going, well, this is the best card, but I really need movement for this turn. Right. So you're making those types of decisions.
Tough decisions. Yeah. I need to try it out. I know Herman Lutman ended up buying it from your recommendation as well. And we've been trying to get together. We got together last night to do something else, but we've been working on playing different games, and so we're going to try and get that on the table and try it out as well. So yeah, that's another. It's interesting because deck building is really morphed into many different pathways. You have different ways that different games handle deck building. There's like the core Dominion where you buy a card every turn, or Ascension where you're buying cards from the middle, and then there's other games where Mage Knight is an example, or Cursed in a Few, where you're getting one card once in a while, not all the time. And in that case, these one or two cards can really make a big difference in your deck because you're not saturating your deck with a whole bunch of different cards. You're only getting a couple cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mage Knight is definitely one of those games we don't get. So, I mean, I feel like I made a list of games that's, to me, deck building, they advertise as deck building games, but when I look at them, it's so minute in the game. It's like Mage Knight. Yes, it's a deck building game because you start with this and you purchase a card or two, but it's not that many. Dune Imperium was another one that just recently came out.
Right.
And that's one, to me, it's kind of like it's worker placement kind of thing with deck building in it. Because through a game, I might only get 4 or 5 new cards. So it's not that big of a deal. Great Western Trail, have you played that one? I haven't, so I was just curious on that.
No, I haven't played that one. I don't know anything about that one.
Yeah, Lost Ruins of Arnak, I finally played that one.
I watched that one being played, and that looks pretty interesting as well, how they do things.
Worker placement. Oh, yeah, the Pathfinder adventure card game. You can go through a whole game of that and not add a new card to your deck.
That's true. That's true. Depending on which cards you come across, right? You're only going to add certain cards that you come across.
Yes,
I would consider that more of a...
kind of agreeing with us there. He likes the deck building because of the variety of the game itself. Yeah, it's just you've got to. It can change just because of what comes out and what options you have, or the state of the game at the time. There are some competitive games out there, like the DC deck building game. If you see someone buying up a whole bunch of attack cards, your game plan just changed.
Right.
Because now you're eyeballing for defense or to make sure they don't get any more attack cards. So you start hate buying or drafting.
Right. Oh, I don't want you getting this, so I'm going to buy it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there's also, we're talking about deck building games. Another newish mechanic with the deck building game is what Mystic Veil did, where you're actually taking a card basically and sleeving it into a plastic sleeve, and then when you purchase something, you're going to slide that into as each card has 3 different slots, so you can have 3 different things on it. So that's kind of an interesting mechanic, and I got into Mystic Veil last year, and I ended up buying everything I can for it. I know they got a big re-release coming out where they have the core game in the first 2 or 3 expansions, and that is a really good deal. I think it's like $70, $75, and it's going to be a lot of the Mystic Veil. So if you missed Mystic Veil, highly recommend you try that. Did you try out Mystic Veil?
I did. I had that for a while. I liked the first. Yeah, it's just the game I feel like we played it to death real quick. And then we just moved on to other things.
Yeah.
Did they come out with a solo expansion or so? I feel like I saw something like that come through.
There is what was it called? I can't see because it's under some pants. But yes, they did come out with a solo expansion called... Damn, what's it called? Now it's going to drive me nuts.
While you're searching for that, I'm going to search for my computer charger.
Okay.
It's drained quicker than I thought it would. I'll be right back in a second.
Nemesis is what it was called. Sure, go ahead. It was called Nemesis.
Okay.
So he's gonna go check out. We will just go to my website here. So the Mystic Beyond Nemesis expansion adds a bunch of nemesis that you're going to be fighting against. It looks like his charger is running out, so we're going to take a short hiatus as some people aren't prepared.
You can still hear me scrounging around there, right?
I hear you scrounging around. Yes, I've played Nemesis quite a few times. It's really interesting because you basically are going to choose a hero for yourself and a nemesis that you're playing against. You're going to add the hero to your deck, and you're going to also add the nemesis to your deck. So when the hero comes out, you get a bonus. When the nemesis comes out, you have some penalty against you. And you're working against the AI as you're trying to build your deck against the nemesis. So super cool. It's just amazing how many different variations, updates, changes that they took from just basic core deck building and said, hey, this is cool, but we want to try this or do this, and just made all these wonderful, cool games for us to play. So we just love it. You back? Did you find it?
Yes. I think it's working.
Nice.
Yeah, it went from 50% to 15% pretty quick.
I was going to say. Whew.
Yeah. So another the game you were just talking about, card crafting. So the other thing is what's it? Bag building. Is that the other mechanic?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Comparing.
Right.
So Warp's Edge solo game, and then the multiplayer Quacks of Quedlinburg.
Right.
So it's kind of feels the same way as deck building, but except you're pulling things out of a bag and building a bag kind of thing.
You're, instead of deck building, you're bag building, I guess.
Yeah.
You're buying things, cubes to put into the bag, and then for your hand, instead of drawing a hand of cards, you're drawing out a handful of dice and you're rolling them, and then you get the results from the dice. So I've always thought that was a cool mechanic as well. With all the different, there's quite a few different dice building games, I guess we could call them, right? Dice building, is that what we call them?
Oh yeah, it was Marvel was one, and then I think they sprung out with they had a D&D version.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to remember the system name.
Warriors is what started that
Warriors is one. Yep, for sure. And that's another way of taking kind of deck building and saying, oh, instead of playing with that, I want to play with dice. You're basically doing the same thing with dice, which is kind of neat. But unlike cards, the dice have 6 sides, so you can, you're getting 6 variations on every dice on what you may or may not get, which is kind of cool.
Yep. Whole lot of cool things going on there. I was trying to think. I did one of my first videos I put out here was my top 5 because I couldn't make a good top 10 list because you heard me. I can usually figure out. I know what my top 2 are. The next is kind of like from 3 to 20. We're talking. There's that much difference. Right. And it depends on the day. So I mean, I tried putting together a quick. What are my favorite games now for in the genre? I feel like yours is. I know you're number 1 for sure.
Yeah.
Have you kind of made a top 5 or top 10 list on those?
Not really, but I mean, it's pretty much, in the order of what we did with our solo board games, right? If you were to take just the deck building games off the list, and I had probably 4 of them, my top 10 solo were deck building games. I had Aeon Zen. I had Marvel Legendary, or the Legendary System. I'm trying to think if I know I had another 1 or 2 on there.
Yeah, I kind of cheated on that, so I didn't have a top 10 list of deck builders. I picked 1 for solo games.
Right, I know you did. Yeah. What was your number 1?
Star Realms for solo.
Right, Star Realms. Right.
Yeah, but like I said, it's funny how you can look at these games and go, that's a great solo game, but I prefer this for multiplayer. So, I mean, Marvel Champions would be my top deck builder for multiplayer easily.
Right. Yeah. You don't think the Star Realms has as good multiplayer with multiple people? It takes longer, or
I think it's a simple game. I think if I wanted to play Star Realms, a lot of those style of games, I prefer 2 players. So it's almost a third category. I've got solo, I've got 2-player, and then I've got 3 or more.
solo, co-op, and then multiplayer. I got you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then you add the co-op factor in there. So that's a different way.
Right. There's a lot of variety. That's for sure.
Because one of the games I picked up, I'd forgotten how much fun I had, was Dark Gothic by Flying Frog Games.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's a basic deck builder. But the one thing they did was you get character cards. And depending on that character, your starting deck is going to be different. So you've got some asymmetry there, and each character has a special ability.
Right.
And it just, I don't feel like a lot of deck builders do stuff like that. I know Star Realms kind of did with your specialized class decks.
Right.
Or, I'm sorry, Hero Realms.
Oh, yeah. Right. With the different classes and the different colors. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just let's just look here. It's I was just getting on to see if go away. Yeah, go away. I don't know. I was just looking to see 20 best deck building games. Just let's see what people have to say out there that created these different
Yeah, we can critique what everyone else says. I feel like Mage Knights and Friday are going to be top of the list.
All right, so how do I get to the list? Okay, here they are. So there's top 18. No, I'm sorry. There's top 10, and then there's 18 honorable mentions.
Oh,
so
good grief.
Here are some of the honorable mentions.
I always thought I'd be cheating with 1 or 2 honorable mentions, and someone went with 18.
Right. 18. Thunderstone, another great game. Especially, I enjoyed the what do they call it? The revised edition, as opposed to the.
Yeah, because there was the regular Thunderstone, then they came out with Thunderstone Advance, and then now they have Thunderstone Quest.
Right.
Which is a game that takes up so much space. I need to get it to the table, but I need a bigger table.
You just stop buying games. You can buy a bigger table. You knew that.
Yeah.
Nightfall. Did you ever play Nightfall? That is super cool too.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite games, and it's like I said, it's funny. Yes, it's a deck building game, and I like the mechanics of chaining your cards together.
Right.
But with my group, that game was popular with our group. The game itself was solid, but what we got was it brought in a social mechanic. And this is the first game also that because you can draft your deck of cards, or not your deck, but your stacks of cards.
Right.
And this is the first time where I have the most powerful card in the game, and I'm passing it on to the next guy, because in our group, that guy becomes a target.
Right.
Yeah, so in a game like that, if you end up taking too many wounds, you lose. Right. Even though he's not the most powerful character, people tend to team up on that person. So that game was fun because of the social.
Right. Going on. Yeah, that was one of those really cool, different games where you're placing your cards down as you go around the table, and then it activates backwards or back counterclockwise back around the table, and players get to do things. So the player who starts doesn't get to do anything until the very end. So Nightfall, super cool. Harry Potter, Hogwarts Battle. We talked. Oh, there you go. There's the Nightfall right there.
Yeah, I don't know if people have seen stuff like this, but yeah, it's basically one person plays a card down, and the next person can play one of the other colors below it, and also there's a kicker someone else can get, and really spice the game up. So yeah, I feel like this is a game that needs to be needs some newer artwork and a revised edition. I think would be great for this game. I just love the system.
Yeah, absolutely. Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle was another honorable mention. Blood Bowl Team Manager. I've never played the Blood Bowl. Have you?
Yeah, I wouldn't even consider that one a deck builder, but it was I mean, based off the Blood Bowl thing. Right. So basically, you'd have a lineup of cards come out, and you'd position your players to kind of take out. It was like an area control type game.
Like area.
But I mean, it was all with cards. That was an awesome. That was. I've been to Gen Con once, and that's the game I picked up there. That's why I remember that one.
Right. May Knight was an honorable mention. Valley of the Kings. I'm not familiar with that one.
I played that one once before. It was all right. It wasn't something I got excited about.
Heart of Crown. Don't know that
Never
one.
heard of that one.
Yeah.
Heart of
Shadow
Crown.
Rift. Now that one I am familiar with, as I own all the except for one. I'm still trying to find one expansion. I own the Shadow Rift. You probably don't have. You haven't played that one.
I feel like you talked me into. Is that one that's got a new edition coming out soon?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
No, I don't think that was one I talked you into, but maybe there isn't one coming out because it's been out for a little while. Kind of went under the radar. It's got a really cool mechanic where you're basically instead of just having like a generic town you're protecting, you actually have villagers, and each of the villagers has a special power that they can activate each turn. So each player can activate one of the special abilities to get extra money or all that. So, and that's kind of it's got some really cool mechanics with the Shadow Rift. Then they talk about the legendary system, Tyrants of the Underdark, Food Chain.
Oh, Food Chain Magnet?
Yeah.
Or Magnate? I've never played that one.
Yeah, me neither. A Few Acres of Snow. I wouldn't consider that a deck building game, though. Would you?
I'd never played it. I'd heard of it, but yeah.
Trains, Great Western Trail, El Dorado, Shadowrun Crossfire.
Okay. Yeah, D&D had their version of that too.
Yep. Dragonfire.
Dragonfire.
I think Dragonfire is awesome. I really do. There's not a ton of deck building because the games are you're only playing 3 or 4, 5 turns maximum. So you're only going to add like 4 or 5 cards. You're not adding a whole bunch of cards. So I wouldn't really consider that technically a deck building game. Let's see what their top 10 is. Puzzle Strike is number 10.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
If my memory's correct.
It says chips, no cards deck building. It must be chip building? Is there a game instead of building with cards, you're building with chips? Like maybe like poker chips or something? I don't know that one.
Yeah, no, I had a smaller version of that one. Okay, yeah, I hadn't played that. Yeah, it's got chips in here. It sounded familiar.
Okay. I never heard of it either. Friday, solitaire deck building game.
Yep, that is revered amongst a bunch of solo players. I played it twice and sold it pretty quick. I know a lot of people love it. It's a tough game. It's kind of like Robin Crusoe. I don't know if you played that game.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, but it's a puzzle.
Yeah.
Deck building.
Yeah. Core Worlds. Now there's a great one. Core Worlds. I haven't played that in a while, but man, that was really good. Yes, I love that game. Now that they mentioned it, I'm going to have to go buy me some Core Worlds.
I feel like they had a revised edition that just came out recently, too.
I think they did. I think they did have like a revised or updated edition or something.
I looked at it, and guess who had self-restraint and didn't buy it? This guy.
Not you. No, I don't believe it.
Yes, I showed a little self-restraint for once.
Wow. I'm surprised.
Yes, sometimes your bank account that's low where you just go, yeah, I can't get any more
I
games.
just can't do it this time. Yeah. Core was really good. Number 7 for them was a Race for the Galaxy space deck building.
Yeah,
Race for the Galaxy. That's the one where see. That's another one.
it's a
Are you really building
game,
because
yeah.
all you're doing is getting a few new planets, right? Isn't that the one where everybody plays their
Yeah,
order down on the
usually
table?
you've got like 5 actions you can take,
Yeah,
and so you
yeah,
secretly pick one thing you're going to do, flip a
right.
card.
Yeah,
Everyone gets to take that action, but
right.
if you chose that action, you get a bonus.
You get the double bonus, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know if I consider that deck building though. Eminent Domain number 6. Wow, that was another good one. Have you
To
played
me,
that
that
one?
was a great 2-player game.
Yes, exactly. I think that. Ooh, that would be co-op or 2-player. I keep
It was
calling it.
competitive, yeah.
Right. It wouldn't be co-op. It would be 2-player. That would it'd be high on the list. It's really good.
Yeah, that wouldn't make a multiplayer game for me. That's like I said, 3 or more, but 2-player, I loved it that way.
So number 5. Oh, look at what we got. Cake.
You got cake.
We got cake.
So everyone knows that joke. I went to the store to try to find cake. These are donut holes. They're not as good as cake, believe me.
We got chocolate cake. So it just so happens the last 2 times we got together, for some reason, we had chocolate cake, and the wife brought in chocolate cake when we were having our discussion.
Yeah,
and
like,
every time I come on the show, you're having chocolate cake. I said, well,
yeah. So for our 3rd meeting, I went out and bought me cake, and you didn't have any.
I didn't have any cake. I didn't, but I had something else. It wasn't chocolate cake because I'm like, I don't need cake because you're getting mad that I got chocolate cake and you're not getting chocolate cake.
Yeah, so I went to Cracker Barrel and got some of their Coke cake.
Right. Number 5 for them is Clank. Yes, I agree. Definitely, especially the fact that there is a wide variety of expansions for the Clank system. You got the Clanks in space, you got the regular fantasy Clank, you got the sci-fi Clank, you got modular boards that you put together, so it's always different every time. You can flip the board around and turn them this way and that way and upside down and all that. So you're never going to get the same kind of layout twice. I think it's a great little, oh yeah, I really, like you said, I really like this card. It's going to give me super good power, but it's got no movement on it. Oh man, and my deck is really low on movement because if you can't move from location to location,
yep, especially if
you're never
someone
gonna
else
get out.
grabs some treasure and starts heading back out,
Right.
you're like, I'm heavy into movement. That's all I need, or else I'm going to die down here.
Right. And if you get too much movement, though, you don't have enough power to beat up the bad guys, so you can get down deeper in the dungeon. So it's kind of a Great. Number 4, Aeon's End. Yeah.
Neither one of us is going to argue with that one.
Yeah. I think it's depending on person's view. Number 3, your game.
All right. Star Realms.
Yeah. And which is, I know we've talked about it a little bit. I know you've been telling me to get it out and play it. I actually played it with my game group before I moved down here to Florida. Playing Star Realms. It was okay, but it wasn't like, oh, I have to get this because it's really awesome. I thought it was good. It was a good game. There's nothing wrong with it. I wouldn't put it number 3 for me.
Yeah, I think it's just, it's a core deck builder. Star Realms, Hero Realms, Shards of Infinity, and there's Ascension. To me, they're just, you can get them set up in 2 minutes, teach a new player how to play in 5 minutes, and your second game is, all right, both of us know what's going on. So, I mean, I love it just for the simplicity. And even, I guess you can bring in the DC deck building game. which also has Lord of the Rings, Penny Arcade, and Attack on Titan. I think they had a hockey deck building game too, using that
Yes,
system.
they did actually. Now that I'm trying to remember the name of it, like hockey, was it like Hockey Blast or something like that? I'm trying to remember what the name of it was.
You being the sports guy, I figured you would have.
Well, yeah, you would think I would know this. I can't remember everything. God. Number
You
2.
look over on a shelf and just have it.
Well, I don't have everything. Number 2 for them is Ascension. Now, we've talked about Ascension. We really haven't delved into it much, but one of those games that kind of introduced, like, Dominion introduced deck building, right? It introduced the mechanic of putting out 10 different stacks of cards, starting off with 10 cards 10 cards in your deck, shuffling, getting 5 cards, buying cards, putting them in your deck, discarding it. So Dominion created that. Ascension, I believe, was the first popular, maybe there was another one that came out before, but a first popular game that created we're going to take deck building and we're going to put it in all the cards that are on the table. We're just going to mash them all together and shuffle them all up, and you never know what's going to come out. And we're going to have stacks out there that you can buy from.
Yep, and they did another thing too. Is there were multiple ways to win. You could go heavy attacking.
That's true.
Or you could go heavy. I'm getting victory points from cards and other things. So
cards that you have in your hand.
You another resource type thing in there instead of just money and victory points. You had money, victory points, attacking kind of thing.
Right.
But the artwork, that was the thing that held that back from a lot of people. Right. So the revised editions changed the art some.
Yeah, I've seen that they've re-released some of the core, or some. It's still got the same aesthetic, I guess you would call it, but there's more to the aesthetic. Does that make sense? Yep. It kind of has the same theme for the artwork.
Man, it definitely got prettier.
Much better. I mean, good Lord. The other it just
that's one of those games where I went into it going, I don't like the art, but after I played a game, it's like, ooh, I love the game though. I'll get over the art.
Right. And of course they had the little gems for the victory points, which were really cool. Another neat idea that it added. So Ascension, it's kind of I guess we could call it like deck building B. It started its own genre of way to play deck building. Now, like I said, there might have been one that came out before Ascension, but Ascension was the first big popular one that came out with that format that I know of. And then, of course, number 1, Dominion. Yeah.
Okay.
The father of all deck building games. Now, a lot of people don't know this, and I'm going to share a story with you, and you might enjoy this. As you know, I lived in Ohio for many, many years before I moved down here to Florida. And being in Ohio, we have the Columbus Area Board Gaming Society, or just simply known as CABS, Columbus Area Board Gaming Society, which was very good friends with Jay Townsend, which is the owner of Rio Grande Games. So when Donald Viciano, the creator of Dominion, was looking to do something with it, he went to Rio Grande Games, and Jay came to CABS and said, hey, I've got this new idea. We got this thing, blah, blah, blah. And we were actually some of the first people in the world playtesting the Dominion game. In fact, my buddy and his wife were very much into it, and they ended up getting their name as playtesters and everything in the rule book. So yes, so I saw deck building before anybody else saw deck building, and it was interesting. But I didn't get into it. It didn't grab me instantly at that time, it wasn't like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Like it is like now, if somebody asked me what is deck building, I would say, oh, this is the best thing ever. But when I first was introduced to it, I was like, oh, okay. Now it might have been because, you're talking about black and white cards that were just, generic cards with no art or anything on them and put in a sleeve. They were very, it was not fancy at all. It was nothing. It was just playtesting, right? Is what we were doing. So, and I didn't do any of the actual play testing. I watched them and I listened to how they played it, and oh yeah, that sounds pretty interesting. Yeah, that sounds cool or whatever. But yeah, so that was my my introduction. Was it came to me and I didn't even know it was there, and I didn't do anything with it.
You just didn't see it.
Bruce says, I just happened to see this while watching a series of deck builders. Deck builders are your favorite. Guys, in the chat, if you're still in the chat, list your favorite deck builders. We just went through, the top 15 or so from this site. We may or may not agree with them, but if you guys have a favorite, I know Kyle's mentioned a few things and Private Republic has mentioned a few. I've mentioned a few. You've mentioned a few?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this is one of those genres where my 1 and 2 hasn't changed since the first time I made the list. Legendary's number 1 and the DC deck building games number 2. Right. And a lot of DC for me is I've gotten so many people into gaming through the DC deck building game because, like I said, it's quick to set up. You go through it. I mean, I know some people have a problem with the theme that heroes are fighting heroes and you're recruiting villains to attack. But I mean, it still works. I've taught my daughter, nieces, and nephews how to talk in a Batman voice in this game. So I just love this game.
Right.
My number 3 at the moment is Dark Gothic, which is a Flying Frogs game. It's an older one. It came out with an expansion. It's the artwork from all their other games, but I just love the different player powers in that one. I kind of wish it would have been a bit more popular. Mage Knight and Arkham. Mage Knight's popping for lots of people.
Yeah, Friday. Oh, listen, there's Friday. We just mentioned Friday because it's solo and Marvel Legendary as well. That's cool. You said you bought it, you played it a couple times, but didn't really hook you, huh?
Yeah, DC and Legendary Encounters. Yeah, it would have been neat if they would have made a Marvel Legendary Encounters, but yeah, like you said earlier, that's kind of the core base system, and then the Encounters added that top row of randomness coming across, which was great.
Yeah, I thought so.
It's been out there for 10 years and still bringing out content. Trying to think here.
Daniel says that Friday is always on my desk. Really? Huh.
But it's a small box and quick and easy to play, so it's a good filler, or you've got a little bit of time after lunch to finish it up.
Gloomhaven is not a deck builder, no, because your deck is already preset for you. You're not adding any cards to it, Mike. So we're not considering that a deck builder. I think that would be
I think they advertise it as one. And
really?
Yeah. Because that was on my list. I've got like a list of deck building with question marks next to it. So like that was on the list that I have Dune Imperium on, Gloomhaven. And I've played them both. Great Western Trail's another one. But yeah, I guess there are some cards you can purchase.
I'd have to look at my box, and the big box, I'm not going to dig it out. Yes, you do. No, you don't add any cards. What cards would you add? You
get victory points to bring in new cards, I think, so you can upgrade some cards. So it's kind of it reminds me of Pathfinder, the adventure game, where you might go through a game and not add any new cards, but you might go through a game and add 2.
Oh, you're talking about like when you level up, right?
Mhm.
So when you level up your hero, you get to choose a card to add to your deck, but you also have to take out a card, right? Yeah, that's core. It's more of deck management. We're not really. That's kind of. I guess that would go in our episode of how did you put it? Deck construction games, right? Is that what you would call that?
Yeah, I know Board Game Geek has a bunch of different ways they rate games, and the deck building just gets in a lot of them.
I think that's anything that says deck building on it. They just put it on there because they want because it's so popular. People go, "Oh, this looks so cool," and it's a deck building game. I'll play that.
I'm trying to look up
Star
what all
Wars
they say about that
Destiny.
game.
Tried that. It's okay.
Oh yeah, they listed as action retrieval, campaign, card play, conflict resolution. It's funny some of these mechanisms. Cooperative, deck construction. Yeah, okay. I guess they're listening more deck construction versus deck building.
Deck building. Yeah. I'm surprised more people don't have Dominion as their number one. Why? Why am I the only one that's a genius out here? I figured some of you other guys would have been geniuses like me. How
It's
can you not say Dominion is not the best? Right.
we're probably not going to be friends after
this.
this one.
We just talked about this before we came on the show, right? Dominion was released
2008.
2008. 2008. Where were you in 2008? Do you remember where you were at? What you were doing in 2008? I don't remember.
I was watching some guys at a table play Dominion. That's one thing of 2008 I remember.
Ah, right.
Guess what game's not in my top 10 deck building games?
It better not be Dominion. I will have to disown you.
Yeah, I was getting ready to. Everyone in the chat has been nice talking. I'm about to get cut out.
We're gonna have to mute him and get. No. But we talked about this. So it came out in 2008. They have now got their. How do I do this? Is that 14? Like that? 14.
No, that's 6. That's 5.
14th expansion coming out. They just released their 14th expansion this year, 2022. So the game has been around for 14 years. Come out with 14 separate expansions. Name one other game like this that has been around for 14 years and has come out with 14 different expansions for it. There's a lot of games that come and go.
Legendary?
Do they have 14?
Expansions?
Yeah.
It's
They
hard to
might
tell.
have about 10. I don't think they have 14 though. And how long has it been around? When did Legendary come out? That's a great question. When did Marvel Legendary come out? Let's see. Let's look it up, shall we? Board Game Geek. Let's see what it says. It was released. Doesn't say. Where do you see? Where does it say? Playtime, age, weight.
Marvel Legendary, 2012. So 4 years later.
4 years later. Okay, that's not bad. That is not bad. Does it list all the expansions for it? I would love to know.
It's a full page.
Yeah, but they also don't. They release mini packs and stuff. They didn't release.
Oh, they don't count? I'm trying to look up here.
Oh, private, public, you're killing me. What are you doing? Wow, it's 14 attempts to make it interesting. It is an interesting game. What is not interesting about it? Tell me what is. How do you not rate it the number one game of all time? It takes all of this extra BS out of the game and takes it down to here's your kingdom. Figure out the best way to make your kingdom with these 10 cards. If you can't figure it out better than somebody else, you lose. I see your comments.
You're not even going to put mine up there?
No, no, I'm not putting it up there. Magic is not a deck building game. I don't understand what's wrong with you people. You people are insane. It wouldn't come out with 14 expansions if it wasn't super popular. So why? Obviously, there's a lot of people like me out there, but
I think it's a different style of game. What did we talk about? What Thunderstone? That was another one too. I feel like you had the same stacks of cards. So Dominion and Thunderstone did the same thing.
Correct.
So I think with those, I know for me it was if I was a new player with Dominion and I played against you, I would stand 0 chance of winning. But in something like the DC deck building game, once we did a round and you understood the game, just because of the randomness of the game, you've got a chance.
Sure, I can see where you're going with that. I can understand that. Yes, obviously, the more you know the game, the better you're going to be at it, the more insight you know. Oh, hey, he just bought a thief. I need to make sure I buy a moat so I can block his thief. Right? You learn these things. It takes time and takes, games to play. So obviously, I can understand the more you play it, the better advantage you have over other players because you've seen other combinations. Oh, this card and this card work really well together. I can't believe this dude just bought this card because it doesn't work at all like with this card. So why would he buy that card? Yeah, so I can see why you're saying that. Sure.
And I guess there's a big strategy too in that end. You need to know, all right, I've built up enough. I'm done buying those cards. It's all about buying the victory point cards.
Right. Well, this is the way I describe Dominion to people, right? It's basically you are a baker. You have 10 ingredients in front of you, and you need to decide which of those ingredients to add to your cake to make it the best chocolate cake there is. You're going to take a whole bunch of these 2 or a whole bunch of these 3 and add them together. Or you're going to take one of this, one of this, one of this, one of this. What's going to be the best cake? That's the strategy of Dominion, is to try to figure out, how do I get these 10 things out here in front of me to work to make it the best, so I can make the best cake before you make the best cake, basically, is what it boils down to. And a lot of people don't see that. And I will also say, with Dominion, if you're playing with just the first core game or some of the first expansions that came out, you're not really getting the whole experience, because now they have a lot of other things going on in Dominion that came out expansion 6 through 13. They're adding a lot of player boards that you're doing things like when you buy a card, you might put it on the player board as opposed to putting in your deck. There's a lot of what do they call it, where you once you play a card down, it's got like a timer mechanism on it, so it stays out for a certain amount of time. So there's all these other mechanics. I will say the first 4 or 5 expansions are mostly basic, what I would call basic Dominion. And you have to really wait until you get to Seaside and beyond, where you start seeing a lot of the updated newer mechanics. You got day and night cycles going on, which most people don't even know that you have that in Dominion, because that's, later, like expansion 10 or 11 or whatever it is.
I'm waiting for the vampires and wolves to go with the day and night thing then.
They have nocturnal. They have nocturnal, which is vampires and werewolves. That's all it is. If you buy that expansion, you will.
You bring me back in. I'm just going to have to come visit you sometime.
Come on in. Come on.
I'll wait for you to finish cleaning.
Here, I will. I'm going to show you. I'm going to share my screen with you. How do I do this? This right there. So this is which expansion is this? This is the 11th expansion. Contains 33 sets of Kingdoms cards. It includes the Night cards, which is a brand new phase to the game that you don't get normally, right?
Mhm.
And with that, you get things like druids, monasteries, pixies, changelings, ghost towns, leprechauns, night watch, secret caves, bards, blessed villages, devil's workshop, exorcists, necromancers, crypt, cursed villages, dens of sins, idols, sacred groves, vampires,
Okay.
and
Now the game gets better.
werewolves. See, vampires and werewolves. And right, so they also added these non-supply cards that change how things are done, right? And they also added this mechanic where you can, when you buy certain cards, you get these other cards, or you punish your opponent by giving them bad things. So you have these zombie apprentices, zombie masons, and zombie spies. You have ghosts. We didn't even talk about boons. Remember, I was telling you a lot. There's a lot
Uh-huh.
more to the game, right? There's now boons, so you'll have up to 2 boons and or banes that you can have out, where instead of just your normal 10 cards you can buy, you now have more options that will give you things to buy. There's also, in this game, there's hexes. So these are what you can do to punish your opponent and give them a hex. And then there's different conditions you can give your opponent as well. So yes, there's a lot more to Dominion than most people think. When they buy the base game, or when they buy the big box edition where they get the base game and Alchemy, which are kind of like their 2 most introductory games to get people into it, it is very kind of just play the 10 cards and you're done. But as you move into the game and you get more of the expansions, there's a lot more to it. You might want to go and watch this guy I know, which is a super cool series, right?
I'm
And
just
it
looking
is
at
called, let
the
me
core
share my
set.
desk with you one more time. There's the Dominion board game tutorial and card quick lookup, where we've gone through every single expansion, step by step by step, where you get to see all the cards and see what's in the boxes. You might want to check that out.
I'm over at Miniature Market right now, and Dominion Nocturne expansion. They have 1 left.
Ooh, I'm surprised you can still find it, to be honest. Hey, Dave Garner, how's it going, buddy? Is Strat Baseball considered deck building? It is considered deck building because you're constantly taking cards in and out. Constantly taking, you got these pitchers coming in and out.
They need to work on their graphic design, though.
Dominion feels like I'm playing a fantasy real estate game, not my thing. Well, I mean, yeah, I can understand that. Right? Like I said, the whole strategy with Dominion is you're trying to get to the making the cake, the best cake, before everybody else can. Right? And it's just trying to figure out which of these ingredients you're going to be using. The cool thing about Dominion that a lot of these other games don't have, because you have a lot of external things going on in the games, right? Is Dominion's core thing is playing cards that do things with other cards. You can actually have a turn where you're playing a card, drawing cards, to play more cards, to draw more cards, to get money, to have your opponent discard cards so you can draw more cards, so you can buy more cards, and you've got this big, long interaction going on. You don't see that in a lot of other games, to be honest, right? When we're talking about deck building, there's some combinations that they'll have where if this card and this card come out together, then they do things together, right? but you don't have this big long chain of things going on. Dominion is known for knowing when you're playing with experienced players where you can get those chain of events going on where they're literally playing their whole deck every time, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're gaining like a card, right? And then you're playing against your opponent and he's gaining like 3 cards plus a whole bunch of money plus some victory points. You're like, dang, right? So that's where the, I guess, the interesting and the fun part of Dominion is getting these combinations together.
Building those chains. And I think that was one of the first points we made in this was having those turns where you've built this mechanic to get this engine rolling.
Right.
It's been so long since I played Dominion. Is it you've got a certain amount of actions you can take on your turn kind of thing?
ABC. A is play an action. B is buy. C is cleanup. That's it. Now, of course, every card changes that because if you buy a card that gives you +1 action, then you have 2 actions. So that's where you can, okay, so I buy a card, it gives me an extra action. So now I play an action, then I get to play an extra action. That extra action might get to draw 3 more cards, or it might get me to have my opponent discard cards. Yeah. So it's ABC is the core mechanic for Dominion, which is again one of its strengths because you can say to somebody, it's just ABC. You play an action, you buy, and then you're clean up and you're done. So I know I love it. I can go on and talk about it. We're not going to just talk about Dominion the whole day. That's fine. We got a lot of other things to talk about, but yes, it doesn't have all these other frills, but for me, sometimes more is less is more. You know what I'm saying? For other people, more by they might need more stuff going on.
And I'm very much a shiny player, which says something else about Dominion. The fact that it's not an IP, it doesn't have the best graphic art, but yet the game is solid enough that it's lasted from 2008 and it's spread out to hundreds of new games.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we're going to start winding things up. If anyone has any thought about deck building or a comment about deck building or a question about deck building, go ahead and type it in the chat. We'll spend just a minute here with you guys left as we wind things up. And we've got cake ready to go here. So
you played Dominion, you've built the best cake.
I have built, look, this is what you're trying to get to. I built the best cake before you. How did my cake turn out compared to your crappy donuts?
Yes. Would you rather have donut holes or the nice looking cake?
Right. So but I mean, to be honest, I love Clank. I've played Hero Realms. I've not played, like I said, I played Star Realms once or twice, but it was more of a competitive. It wasn't cooperative. I didn't like the competitiveness of Star Realms because it seemed to me like whoever got the better bases always won. Like, because you can't destroy the base until you have, or you can't. What was it? You can't destroy your opponent until you destroy all of his bases or something.
Yeah, some of them had guards, so you had to take out the base before you could do damage to something else.
So it's like whoever got the first base out wins because you can't do anything to him because you got to destroy his base, and that's just wasting all your attack. So yeah, I mean, I might enjoy it. They have solo now, which I know you like a lot. So maybe I'm more of a solo player myself, so I might really like Star Realms solo. So I might have to give that a whirl. What other one out there that you've played that maybe we haven't talked about, or maybe we have, that you might recommend to people that they're watching and they're like, hey, this deck building stuff looks pretty interesting? Which one would you kind of lean players towards?
Oh, for newer players, I'd always go, I tell Star Realms or Hero Realms. They're basically the same game competitively. It's just a different, whether you want to be in space or have your basic fantasy theme. Someone was asking me recently, which is better for the solo components. I know Hero Realms has the campaign that I've been through, but it's not so much a one-off. You have to do a campaign system. And Star Realms has the solo one-off better. So that's it. But to me, looking at those, and then I go into games like the DC deck builder or the Lord of the Rings deck builder. It's the same game. It's just which IP is put on it. So I like the simple games, and then building out from there.
You actually answered Daniel's question. Looks like you said Hero Realms, good or so-so.
Yeah,
I think it's good, right? I think you would recommend it for newer players.
I
like
own both.
Fantasy thing, yeah, right.
Yeah, so I'm the worst person to ask. Get both.
There you go. And obviously, with you buy some of the what do they call the little expansion packs? You can play the Fantasy Realms solo with the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I mean, both Star Realms and Hero Realms, you can get the core box. It's just a small little thing for like $15 or $20.
Right.
So it's easy to get into. The thing about Hero Realms is you can buy class decks. So instead of having you and I having the exact same deck, you can buy a different class. You can get a thief. So you've got some similar cards to me, but you've got some extra cards in there built more for being a thief, where I could be a cleric. So I might have a little bit more healing, but you've got a little bit more backstabbery. So if you like you said, if you want a little bit of asymmetry in what you're starting with, I'd say Hero Realms is probably the way to go. I don't know if Star Realms has gotten into something like that. They probably have. I know they've got so many expansions, but
right. That's the thing. Do you find deck building to be, just in general, do you find it best to be played cooperatively or competitively, or which do you prefer?
For me, a lot of games comes down to your play group. So like Harry Potter for a cooperative experience for 4 people, and I think that game's best at 4. It'll go good 2 or 3 also, but I think it's best at 4, just helping around the table to get people familiar with playing a game. And then once they're used to the system, I think that's one of the nice things about Marvel Legendary. You can play it competitively. You're still kind of cooperating because you have to beat the villain to win the game, but there's bragging rights at the end of it.
Right. I love that one solo too. I think it plays great solo. Yeah.
Do you play by the solo rules, or do you play two-handed?
I play two-handed together. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I play myself two-handed. I technically not the solo variant. I think it plays great, right? Because you're playing a deck, you got to do a lot of shuffling yourself and stuff. But I think it plays great because, there's not a lot of interaction, which is good between, like, if I play this card, then you can play this card, and then he plays this card, It's mostly take my turn, buy my cards, do my thing, attack my enemy or whatever. Draconis is like that as well. Cooperative yet competitive. Draconis.
Yeah, that had a lot of dragons. If I remember getting that one, I played it a couple times. I needed to play it more, but I have a problem with buying more games than I have room for.
Right. Don't we all?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we'll go ahead and wind things up. We had a really good discussion. A lot of great players, a lot of great people coming out, just making some comments, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Our look at deck building game. Next month, we'll get together over on Dale's channel, and we'll come up with another topic, and we'll have a discussion about it. And this is my topic, so it'll be whatever Dale decides he wants to talk about.
Who knows, right?
We'll come up with something in the meantime. So look forward to doing that, and we'll just alternate back and forth every month until maybe towards the end of the year we'll come out with our the one that everybody wants to see. Our 10 favorite board games of all time. Man, Dale, it's going to it's going to take you months to get that ready.
Well, I thought I had a list together, and then I picked up a new game, and I'm thinking now I need to find a way to squeeze that in there. But yeah, thanks for having me on the show, man. Appreciate talking to you again.
I appreciate you coming on. I love talking with you. Love to get your insight and love to hear what your thoughts and opinions are and stuff. And you guys, if you're not a subscriber, go over to Dale the Casual Gamer on YouTube, subscribe to his channel, leave him a comment, give him a thumbs up on his videos, tell him what a good job he's doing, because he does a lot better job than I do. So I don't know why he's hanging out with a schmuck like me. So anyway, thanks everybody for coming out tonight. Thanks to Dale for coming out and sharing some of his wisdom tonight. Had a great discussion. We'll do it again soon for you guys out there. Any final words, Dale?
No, but I appreciated all your friends coming out here. So go out and buy yourself a deck building game, and we can talk more later.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Until next time, thanks so much for coming out. We'll see you now. We'll see you next time. Thanks for coming.